Hi, I'm John Walker and welcome to another instalment of Town Crier. We're in beautiful Beechworth in northeastern Victoria at the wonderful George Kerford Hotel up on the hill in Beechworth, and our special guest this week is Peter Klein, who is an author, singer-songwriter and environmental scientist. But first, we're taking it to the streets to get some of your ideas. Who's the kid?
Those people in mental health and doctors and psychiatrists, they really need to listen to their patients a bit more. And for example, as I said, if a doctor gives you a pill and tells you you got to wait 3.5 weeks for you to feel anything better, but in that 3.5 weeks you're going to feel like you want to hurt yourself every day, really badly, and they tell you that's okay. Go home, sit with that by yourself. How is that good for anybody, people?
We have like a lot of awareness programs. So what's a winter solstice we have once a year, which is just all about mental health, and that's in QE too. So everyone comes down and there's music and stalls, and the whole night there's speakers talking about their issues and stuff, and it's really good. And then in schools they always let us know that there's people that we can talk to, so it's good. Yeah,
I think there probably is sort of more of it sort of around, but then again, you know, there's probably the services and support and that people need as well.
That's why you need sort of a good family support, or at least friends or a network of people, you know, just to check in from time to time and make sure you're all right.
I think that art is amazing for mental health, and that's certainly something that my husband and I are trying to promote through our painting, our social painting class business, is that it doesn't matter if you don't think you can paint or you don't think that you're creative, just the process of painting and mixing colours is so therapeutic. It clears your mind and is great, you know, as well as anything meditative, anything like yoga or anything like that, I think is fantastic.
Somehow I feel an emptiness in a lot of people, and it's not just the people I know. This picture comes through if you look at television, if you go to social media. I always think that when people try to cover it with, you know, they're happy, everything's fine, but you really wonder what they really feel deep down. And if you get close to them, then you feel the insecurity that maybe again hasn't been there before.
My best therapy for me is going bush for a couple of days, and to be honest, exactly what we're doing here in front of this camera, this is what we need more of. And to be honest, I'd like to be able to get my confidence up a bit more, to be able to go around those streets and talk to some of those people. They're more like myself. I wouldn't say maybe not more like myself, but have suffered similar things and don't get much understanding. So yeah, I suppose in the gist of it all would be somebody to listen and understand, empathy.
My parents and then their friends have been through that sort of stuff and it's been explained to me, but seeing it firsthand, I think it's actually more common than everyone realises. Like my partner suffers from severe anxiety, and it's very difficult in our relationship. Sometimes it can be quite hard to deal with, but it also puts her at a disadvantage in certain situations. And I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of people who get like that. And even just walking down the street, once you have seen it, you can see the people who do have that sort of stuff. And I believe it is more common in a place like Albury rather than in a city.
We do a program with school. Everyone has to do it on it's like team mental health training, first aid or something. So we know how to deal with if someone was suicidal or if someone told us something, we know how to handle that situation. So
we have to have more face-to-face connections, but that's not where the world is heading.
It can't just be resolved by people saying buck up, get over it, and that's a big step.
I suffer it, but I mask it well, because I know there's always another day to look forward to. Yeah, by getting out every day and expressing my thoughts, if I can, in a harm minimised way. Yeah, but not expose me too deep into a situation I don't understand as well. Yeah, it's about that self-protection, I guess. Yeah. But also I paint.
I don't know if about you, but I feel like more mental health was a big deal, in the school. I mean, we're both out of school now, and it's just you don't really hear much of mental health anymore, but in the schools, obviously, they were, trying to raise awareness and, tell people that, there's people that you can talk to for it, depression and all that. But yeah, you don't really hear much about it.
Nothing once you get out of school.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck on your own, which I think that's why a lot of kids go off and try and do other stuff to help fill that void as such. Yeah. So.
You know, a few years ago I had the opportunity to rent a house out at Bethanga, and what a beautiful little town it is. And two of its most famous residents are Dame Nellie Melba and Peter Klein. And Peter Klein, author, raconteur, singer-songwriter and environmental scientist, joins us here at the George Kerford Hotel for another instalment of Town Crier. Peter, welcome.
Oh, thank you, John. Well, what a welcome that was. Dame Nellie Melba and I had nothing else in common other than the fact that she lived in Bethanga for a short period of time in the early days.
Yeah.
And as far as environmental scientists go, I'm more of a children's performer, educator, creative music drama at schools. So
your CV must be absolutely ridiculously long, as you know, as long as the Bethanga Bridge.
My CV has me scratching my head sometimes because I'll look at it and it'll be science and then it's drama and music, and some of those things are like at opposite poles of each other, but I do have a really, really good love of science.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting how you've been able to interlace your creative sides? You know, I've always found this fascinating in your character. For instance, these books contain, I mean, they're great stories, and we're going to talk about the fourth instalment in the Mudpoo series in a minute. But these three Mudpoo stories that you've got together combine all the creative side of you, but you know, there's the spiritual, the scientific, the social responsibility side of you as well. Can you tell us the Mudpoo idea? Where did it come from?
Yeah, it was.
How long ago?
Oh, it was. Getting 20 years ago. I had my two sons in the back of a combi van, and we're heading up to Queensland. Just me and the two boys. Away we go. Sam and Todd in the back of the car, having a ball. Absolutely no idea where we were going. Just going north, and we decided we'd go to Hervey Bay. And as we're driving along in the old combi van, which we called Gus, the story kind of developed, and the boys told the story themselves. So every single chapter in the True Adventures of Mudpoo are true stories with a little licence for twisting it a bit.
So were the characters, as you're on the way to Hervey Bay, the characters were just popping up literally out of the dashboard?
Out of the dashboard, absolutely. My son Todd sang a song which had a word in it which I didn't quite hear, and I was fascinated, and I actually said to him, "What was that word you just said?" And he looked at me blankly, and he's like 5 years old at the time, and he says, "I don't know." So I just waited, and as we drove along a bit further, he said the word again. This time I pulled over, wrote it on a small piece of paper, and put it in the dashboard of the combi. When you see a dashboard of a combi, it's just full of everything. Just chucked it in there, and the word was Mudpoo. And we had our trip, and we had a great time, and then we documented the stories as we went along. The boys did a lot of it for their schoolwork. They just wrote and drew pictures. One day, after the trip was over, I thought, what was that word? Because I wouldn't mind putting all these stories together and making it into a book. Just an idea. And I went to the dashboard and I searched around and I found the scrunched up little tiny piece of paper. I unfolded it and there it was, Mudpoo. And I thought, right, the True Adventures of Mudpoo. So my son Todd, sorry Todd, but he became Mudpoo. And Sam, who was my older son, he was 6 years old at the time, became Harry the dog. And he agreed with that, he was happy with that. And so we had Harry the dog and Mudpoo, and the stories, the 10 true stories that became the first book, The True Adventures of Mudpoo.
How old are the boys now?
Sam's 30 this year, and Todd's 28.
And how do they feel about being referred to as Mudpoo and Harry the dog at this age?
They're pretty happy with it at this age. I kind of somehow managed to keep the book in the bottom drawer of the cupboard while they were at primary school, because I could imagine being called Mudpoo at primary school was going to be a tough gig. Yeah, a little bit of Winnie the Pooh in that. But I ended up revealing it all when they were about year 10 and 11.
Do they still have input into the books? Do they email you with ideas? And
no, they've just gone along for the ride. They've found it a little bit quirky, and they've enjoyed being part of it. But you know, I think it's just one of those things now. If we ever go on another big trip with the two boys in the back seat, well, who knows?
Yep. Tell us how you got the first one rocking.
Yep.
How did you get it started? what was your writing process and your relationship with Leon de
Montagny. Yeah, Leon's my illustrator. He's incredible. I was out of work at the time. I was working as a dye chemist at Macquarie Textiles. I was the lab manager. Macquarie Textiles were doing a lot of redundancies, and the dye process was actually being moved away from Albury, so I ended up finding myself without a job. Ended up working for a guy called Santi Montague, who had a business making fungus, which was quite interesting. But in between that period of time, in between jobs, I ended up in Rutherglen Estates pruning grapevines. And I'm working in the grapevines, having a ball. It was just different. We're outdoors, enjoying ourselves. So I met this guy called Leon who said, "Can you give me a ride to work?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." He said, "I really can't afford to give you too much money because, we're not getting paid a lot. We're getting piece rates."
So was he an itinerant traveller, or what was...
Oh, Leon was a guy who just kind of never had a car. He observed the world around him, and I didn't know it at the time, but he was one of the most amazing artists in Australia. Like, his pencil sketches and his paintings are incredible. And Leon and I was in the car, just travelling along. And of course I said, "Leon, I'll do this for nothing, mate. I'll just pick you up from Albury on my way from Bethanga. We go to Rutherglen. We have a great time pruning the grapevines, back in the car, home, drop you off wherever you want to go." And every now and again I'd spot him a hamburger or a packet of smokes or whatever. And then one day he said, "I want to thank you, Pete, for taking me on this trip to work." And I'm going, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I really want to help you out." Because I'm always talking about the Mud Poo books, and at the time they hadn't come out of the bottom drawer.
Yeah. What year is this? What?
It'd probably be around 2005. I think.
Right.
Yeah, around 2005. So he presented me with a piece of paper, which was the sketch of this particular character. He just invented the character, and then all of a sudden, without even knowing it, I became a cartoon character, a real-life cartoon character.
Isn't that amazing? So he made that connection.
Yeah, he made the connection. And then as we discussed, and I told him the 10 stories that Sam and Todd and I had kind of adventured through, and they became the Mud Poo stories, he drew pictures without ever having read the book. So he would just create a picture, and the next day or the next week he'd turn up, I'd jump in the car, and then there he was, big grin on his face. On the back of a cornflake packet, he'd have, "Here's another picture." And then I started buying him some nice paper, and I said, "Leon, can you draw them on this really nice paper? These pictures are incredible." And every week he would present me with another picture. And I always say to kids, if you see someone down and out in the schoolyard, go and help them, because you never know, one day they might help you. So that was Leon's philosophy. I was helping him, and he started drawing these pictures for me.
So did he illustrate the first 3?
He's illustrated the first 3 books. The first one is an accidental book, so it kind of came together just through our adventures and our stories and our talking.
And on that accident, how did you get to a publisher? Did someone see it and pick it up, or...?
I sent them into publishers, but the Right Around the Murray Festival was on, and there was a publishing company there who are now in liquidation. They were JoJo Books at the time, and Barry Dorr, who was in charge of JoJo Books, invited me in to try and do something with the stories, and it worked out really well. But sadly, just recently, probably in the last 5 years, JoJo have gone to liquidation, and so that was pretty much the end of that adventure. I think a lot of people weren't really pleased with the way how that ended up. So I'm without a publisher at the moment, but I'm very determined, and the next book is going to be self-published. I've put all the things in place to make that happen. So yeah, after 3 books, and they were very well received in our area and beyond.
Well, I know, and there's actually a live show. You've done a live show.
Yes.
And then you take the ideas behind the books and the reading and such, and actually do schools workshops.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I do work in several schools. Bethanga Primary School and Talgarno Primary School combined to present Mud Poo and the Fungus Mystery. And they won the community event of the year last year for Australia Day. That was a magnificent thing. The kids, the parents, everyone rocked up at the Bethanga Hall and put on this show, and seeing this come to life on stage with kids was amazing. They were fabulous. They were really, really good fun. And even the world around us provided us with thunder and lightning. It was the day that it poured down 60 mil of rain in about half an hour, and it was fabulous. Like, to have that as a backdrop, all the thunder and lightning when we were doing Mud Poo and the Fungus Mystery was awesome. So the kids did great, and St Francis did the show as well. A couple of years ago, they put it on, and they did a terrific job as well. It was good, really
Great.
good.
As you know, Pete, we do a street walker segment a couple of times during the show, where we get opinions from people out on the street. Let's go to one of those with Johnny Kovacs.
It's good to see Albury Council especially taking initiative with the waste management side of things and really getting on board with, I guess, more stringent rules and regulations to try and reduce our waste as an area. And then it would be good to see them jumping on board with a bit more renewable energy, even just for generation through the, whether it be solar or wind. It's a pretty good spot in that sense to harness a bit of natural energy as well.
It's the same everywhere you go. You can walk down a certain street and it will be littered, and then you can walk down the main streets and it'll be beautiful, and it's just because it's where people spend the more time and where the people who are in that street are willing to make the effort.
Where I used to live in Thagoona was all like trees and beautiful wildlife, and now it's all housing and all this stuff. Like, I think there has to be a certain level of development and experience as well as nature preserving.
Being really conscious of, second use and third use of plastics and things like that. We just have to. Yeah. And I think that's something that more and more people are talking about and sharing ideas on how to, just protect our environment.
We don't use shopping bags, like plastic bags anymore. We've got the boomerang bags. They're really good, so we don't have to worry about plastic bags so much.
If you look at Brazil, for example, the new government is letting the destruction of the rainforest again. So that's not something you want to. We're destroying our own environment and basically for mere profits.
Pete, you're up to the fourth book of the series in the Mud Poo sequence, and it's The Secret of the Rainforest. Tell us about how this one got together.
Mud Poo and the Secret of the Rainforest, I think Leon and I were both we had the same feeling. We wanted to make a difference to climate change, and we thought that if I could present a story, and the story just started to evolve in my head, slowly but surely, over many years of driving from Bethanga to Albury and back and going to work.
There's very little rainforest between Bethanga and Albury.
There is very little rainforest between Bethanga.
So you didn't have a reference point there.
No, that's very true, but all the same though, it's a global community. So even though we're living in this small community here in Albury-Wodonga area and Bethanga area, we can reach out and stretch out. And having worked with fungus and creating metarhizium fungus for controlling grasshoppers and locusts, there was also a bacterial spore called Bacillus aminoliquefaciens, which was what we were making in Sandy's shed. Started out in Bethanga.
We'll put that on the screen for
yes.
later on with the spelling of that.
Well, it's an endospore. We actually created our own little factory. The fungus itself was metarhizium, and it was very successful, used by the CSIRO for controlling grasshoppers and locusts. And if you could imagine a small shed and a shipping container where we've just set up fermenters and reactors and pressure vessels and bubbling brews and of all kinds of descriptions, almost like the mad scientists, myself and a little team of people, it was Greg and Brooke and John and a little team of people, we all got together and just made this stuff which could control grasshoppers and locusts in an environmentally friendly way. And the bacillus was similar to that. So it started to develop this idea that I had that maybe the bacillus could have more uses. And it came about when I was reading an article on the internet where Professor Peter Dart from the University of Queensland,
yes, heard of him.
He said that kangaroos don't fart methane, and I thought, or burp methane for that matter, and I thought, wow, what a great opening for a bit of a quirky area in a new story. So I thought, how would it be if we could transpose that to cows? And they actually also made that connection that if why kangaroos don't fart and burp methane, if cows didn't burp and fart methane, well, that would make a big difference to the methane going up into the environment, and climate change could be reduced.
Is the difference between the cow and the kangaroo and what they produce, what they exhale, is that something to do with, is it metabolic?
The metabolic process, it's probably more to do with the gut process, the way the gut works. And the Bacillus aminoliquefaciens is an endospore. And the idea is a bit like we eat yogurt and we've got the good bacteria in it. Yeah. The idea was if you put bacillus on hay and fed it to cows, would that reduce their methane output.
So the bacillus for a cow could be something like Yakult for a human.
Exactly.
A bacillus every day.
Something like that, And well, it's exactly right. And so a farmer would spray the bacillus on the hay as it was being cut and baled.
As a liquid?
Yeah, just droplets, like a little a spray liquid. And then as it gets stored and put away, the cows are fed the hay. And then the trick is, well, we don't know this yet, but to be honest, folks, I was just thinking there when I was writing my story, wouldn't that be good if that could work? And I thought, if it could work, it would be amazing. And then
So it started off as fiction, but it's fast becoming fact?
Well, the interesting thing was I contacted Dr. Peter Dart because he's a person that I've worked with in the past with the metarhizium and the grasshopper stuff. And he came back to me and said, strange, you should mention that, but we're looking at doing that experiment. At some stage, they're going to put cows in glass enclosures, feed them the bacillus on hay, and measure their methane output. And I think from... It's the truth. It's the truth.
I'm not mocking.
It's all. Look,
I'm fascinated, particularly with the cows in glass cages.
Yeah. Well, when I say it's not like a China shop glass cage. It's it's more of a scientifically made glass cage.
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course it is. And Bermuda kangaroos can watch on from the distance because they're out the bush in Queensland somewhere.
What are they? Can I go back to the kangaroo?
Yes.
Because what are they emitting?
They're emitting. Well,
what is it?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. Well, it's not methane.
No.
That's what this is all about. Is to reduce the methane output.
I remember you said to me when we were in the park, ages ago.
Yeah.
And you said something about the total emissions on the planet from cows.
Yeah. Yes, 30%. It's around about the agricultural sector is contributing about 30% of the global warming process, or in greenhouse gas emissions, I should be saying.
And most of that is cows?
Well, it's a proportion of that is cows, but it's certainly, even recently, there's been a lot of talk about we need to change the way we produce our food, we need to change the way we farm, our farming practices need to change. Are we growing the right crops? Are we growing the crops in the right areas? And for all of us to be eating lots and lots of meat, should we be eating lots and lots of grasshoppers? They're delicious, coated in chocolate, I've been led to believe. That was what I was told by a Chinese gentleman.
Yeah, I had them in Thailand.
Yes,
and they were beautiful.
Yeah.
The other delicacy I had in Cambodia was the frogs that come in to eat the rice.
Oh, not the frogs.
Yeah, but they're not protected.
Yeah, okay.
They're it's not that they're a menace, but they tidy up around the rice.
Oh, yes.
During that season.
Yes, well, when we were doing the metarhizium exploration in China, I was over in China checking out to seed production processes and things like that. There was a gentleman there who had a control method which involved ducks. So when you had the crops and all the slugs and things that were eating the crops, he would open up the back of his truck, and the ducks would all come running out, go into the crops and eat, and on command of his whistle, they would all run back into the truck and away he'd go again. How about that?
Yeah, brilliant.
For environmental aspects,
Brilliant. So the cows are going to be in these glass enclosures.
Well, a cow probably in one glass enclosure.
Their methane will be measured?
Be measured after they've eaten the bacillus.
Yeah, the bacillus.
But
when are we, is there a time frame on this?
Well, the last report...
Can we go to a website or something and keep updated with this? Because it's rather fascinating.
Well, you can have a look at Queensland. You could probably Google Queensland University and
Dr. Peter Dart
and see what they're up to. The last time... there was a reasonable amount of success using the bacillus. What I found out was that it helped sheep increase their weight. So when sheep were eating this stuff on their food, they had a slightly increased weight. So that would be good for farmers. And the other thing they found was that feeding it to calves, it stopped calves from scouring as much. So that would help them to increase their weight a little bit. So it's already got some benefits. The possibilities are that if it does reduce the methane output from cows, it's an environmental benefit. So this could be something...
Wow.
And you'll see it here in the in the next mud poo book, I should say.
Yes, the rainforest. Now, that's my next question.
Right.
How does all this connect with the Sumatran rainforest?
Well, we're talking about palm oil there. So Leon and I must say, I haven't mentioned this yet, but Leon passed away in 2016, in April 2016.
Yeah.
And we were working on this project, and so I'd shelved it for a while because after he passed away, I was very sad about the whole situation.
Yeah.
But more recently, my good friend Pip and Marie from Yinnar have gathered up some of his artwork, and we've done art exhibitions. We've had one in Churchill, we've had one at Mumma's in Albury, which is great work that they did there, fantastic art space at Mumma's. And we put on Leon's work as an honour to Leon, and that really got me going again. I thought, I've got to get all these pictures together, and we've got to finish this book. So we were really keen to put it all together. Now, the palm oil was the point that I was trying to make. The Melbourne Zoo has a Don't Palm Us Off campaign. Where they're showing people that the supermarket products that we buy that contain palm oil and the damage that's doing. So in Sumatra, for example, they're destroying large amounts of rainforests. The most famous creatures that are affected are the orangutan, of course, and the Sumatran tiger.
Yeah.
But that's not to mention the amount of beautiful flora and fauna in the forest. There are absolutely, literally, like you say, millions of different species of bacteria and fungi. Every tiny spore, every tiny bacteria could have a useful purpose, yet we'll never find out because trees are being thrown down. I think on the ratio of around about, since the 1960s, an area 3 times the size of Tasmania is being cleared. So if you can imagine Tasmania covered in rainforest, 3 of those, clean it all up, and that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And there's only a little bit left now, so it's urgent.
It's incredibly urgent.
And we go into supermarkets, and this is what happens in the book. Captain Pete and Mudpoo and all the other characters, Ember, who is another character, a new character based on my little girl Isabella. They all go into the supermarket and try and find products to buy
that aren't based on palm oil.
And they find it hard work because there are no labelling processes.
You got any pictures? Yes, you do.
Well,
I love the way, by the way, you incorporate members of your family randomly. You know, like I said, oh, hello, you're my auntie. Do you want to be in a book?
Well, Bella, she wrote, well, the auntie's in the book too, actually.
Sure.
Auntie Sharon's in there as well.
Good, that's
yes,
right,
she
Auntie
is.
Sharon,
yeah, of course.
Who could forget Auntie Sharon?
Yeah, no, she's in there. So we ended up with Bella, quite an interesting character who has a magic memory bag with Mudpoo, with his skills as well, are able to try and sort out what's happening at the Sumatran rainforest. And it all starts in Bathanga. So if I go back through some of Leon's incredible pictures, this is a bit of a sneak peek of what's coming.
Which camera are we on here? Thanks, Jeff.
That's sideways, I believe. Yeah. So this
most of the book is to be read sideways. It's quite an interesting development.
So
it's due to the effects of methane.
Giving away some of the small secrets in the story. So this is Captain Pete and Harry and Mudpoo discovering an old treasure chest in the paddock at Bathanga after a bit of a mishap with the water pipes.
Aren't the illustrations brilliant?
Are extraordinary. Yeah, extraordinary.
Have you got that yet? Yeah.
And so the unveiling of the treasure chest finds a map of the Melbourne Zoo and a few other things. And this is
here's another one.
The character Sneaky, who lives in the Sumatran rainforest, and his job is to gather a crew of people together. The old pirates from the previous book appear.
I think I saw him in a hotel in Albury last night.
He may well be around. There's definitely connections. And so
Gee whiz.
Yeah, so he actually is one of the sort of a not very nice character in the story. And of course the orangutans get a bit of a... Oh, they're not orangutans. Here we are. The orangutans get a bit of a...
these illustrations are just
It'll look in as well.
Now, the other thing I like about the books is they're kind of all ages books.
Yeah, they are.
Very much.
Yeah,
and there's something in it for everyone. And just the quality and the production's fabulous. Messages there, but also very, very entertaining. So at what stage now are we, what draft are we in of the Series 4?
Series 4 now is just about finished the proofreading, and I've got a graphic designer ready to go, and then once the graphic designer does his work, it's a matter of publishing. But the issue that I've got is that the publishing is expensive.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to self-publish, and I'm going to go with Specialty Press in Albury.
Cool.
And they've got ways of using environmentally friendly papers and inks and things like that. Spoken to them about that. So they probably don't even know this yet, but very soon I'll be knocking on their door and trying to organise getting the book published. I'm going to have to set up a GoFundMe page. However, the GoFundMe will be if I can get $30 from a number of different people, that's like an advance order of the book. So whoever donates money to the process will get paid back in book at some stage. Oh, good on you, John.
I'm in, because I can't wait for the 4th instalment. And Johnny Kovacs is in.
And I haven't...
which is remarkable, because if you can get $30 out of him, you're doing really well.
I haven't set up the GoFundMe page as yet, because what I wanted to do is wait until I've got everything in place, so that the thing can happen quite quickly once I've got it up and running. So that'll be happening in the next couple of months.
Timing is of the essence, isn't it?
That's right. Well, we've got to get the message out there. It's really important. This is what we were talking about before. This is the illustration that Leon drew, and this is the one.
This is the methane one.
The methane experiment done by Captain Pete without the glass cage. And he actually feeds the cow with the bacillus and then goes around the back to check to see if there's a smell it didn't quite end as well as he'd liked, actually.
Right.
It wasn't a very successful experiment.
I'm fascinated with all the bacillus stuff, and Dr. Peter Dart up at Queensland University. I reckon that's a follow-up story we could do, down the track.
It's quite real, and as I say, I don't know where Dr. Peter Dart's up to. He was trying to put the research project together. He'd done the first early stages of the bacillus stuff, and now it's moving on. But it's just in a children's book that talks about children making the right choices as far as when we go shopping, not to buy food that contains palm oil, but look for CSPO, Certified Sustainable Palm Oil Products. And if you're not sure what a certified sustainable palm oil product is, go to the Melbourne Zoo and check their website and look at the Don't Palm Us Off campaign.
Yes, and they've got a whole stack of alternatives.
Yeah, exactly.
That are very easily accessible. It's not as though you've got to go, and order them online or anything like that. It's very, very accessible.
So the next Mud Poo book's going to be about kids actually being able to make a difference. It's all about, and I said, I think in the little bit at the end, the most intriguing true mud poo adventure ever, and the real solution depends on you. So it's talking about kids going shopping with mum and dad and say, hey mum, dad, don't buy those chocolate biscuits, buy these ones. They've got CSPO on them.
Yeah.
And then we know that we're not contributing to rainforests being cut down.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Now we're going to come back to you for a song.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry to just
a song.
Handball that straight onto you,
course.
but come back for a song. But first, a little bit of Out on the Streets with Streetwalker.
500 years from now, plant a seed today, put it in the ground. You gotta water it, nurture it, watch it grow. Gentle with the earth, 'cause we all know we want water to sparkle, fish to swim, birds to fly high, people to grin, and trees to be tall, forests to grow. You gotta think big and let it flow. For 500 years from now, plant a seed today, put it in the ground. You gotta water it, nurture it, watch it grow. Be gentle with the earth, 'cause we all know, 'cause it's your great, 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 great grandkids. See what you do, it's your great, 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 great grandkids. Do what you do, it's your great, 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 great grandkids. Love what you do. Now, I heard a politician just the other day, he said, plan for 3 years, yeah, that should be okay. Let's just dig a huge hole in the ground, see how much uranium can be found. We'll turn the sky purple, make the earth explode, lots of money in banks, yeah, that's the way to go. 'Cause all some pollies care about is the next election plan. 500 years, they don't understand. You gotta think, 500 years from now, plant a seed today, put it in the ground. You gotta water it, nurture it, and watch it grow. Be gentle with the earth, 'cause we all know that it's your great, 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 great grandkids. See what you do, it's your great, 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 great grandkids. Believe what you do, it's your great, 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 great grandkids. We love what you do. 500 years from now, come and help me out, John. 500 years
Klein. Pete, thank you so much. I'll just grab this mic. Thanks so much for being with us today. Johnny Kovacs has gone out and got you some beautiful, of course, Beechworth apple juice.
Oh, thank you so much, John.
Our local product. We strained and drained those this morning.
Look at that. Fresh from the apple tree. Beautiful.
Absolutely. There, I'll put that down there. And that website again for a Mud Poo and the Rainforest, that's series 4, that's book 4, sorry, in the series, is www.mudpoo.com.au. You can put in a forward order for the book there, and facebook.com/mudpoo1. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been my pleasure as well. And thank you everyone for listening in and sharing the joy. And yeah, keep your eye out for Mud Poo and the Secret of the Rainforest. The information will go on the website in the next few months, I'd say.
Good on you, buddy. Good luck with the project. Thanks
Thank
for being with us. And thanks for being with us on Town Crier. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.